Welcome to Season 2 of Difference Talks, brought to you by the LaBeouf Marketing, Communications, and Training Team. Our guests are inspiring people who share their stories of brand differentiation. Based on our book, The Power of Differentiation, our goal is to inspire 1 million people with the message that winning hearts and minds are the first step in growing market share. Now, on with the show.
Welcome, everybody, to Difference Talks. I'm Barry LaBeouf, founder and CEO of LaBeouf Marketing, Communications, and Training. I'm the author of The Power of Differentiation. Today, we have Laura Patterson. We're going to talk about differentiation, specifically in dealing with your customers, in giving them an experience that is extraordinary. Laura wrote a book called Fast Track Your Business, and it's not just about sell, sell, sell. It's about inspiring those customers you have to not only stay with you, but to grow their business. So I'll turn it to you, Laura. Give us a little background on Laura Patterson.
Oh, Barry, first, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love the concept of differentiation. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that. I have been at the helm of VisionEdge Marketing, which I founded in 1999 in Austin, Texas. And we're a growth strategy firm, and our roots are really in helping our B2B customers who typically have complex products that require a consultative sell be more successful by taking a customer-centric approach to growth.
What I loved about what you said may surprise you. B2B. So often people go, oh, business to business. Oh, that's like trucks or tractors or, oh, God, that's industrial. Oh, that's not exciting. And I love B2B companies. Most of our clients, not all, but most of our companies' clients are B2B. And in many cases, we work with B2C clients, but we help them on their B2B side, how they're dealing with their distributor network, et cetera. Laura, why the focus on B2B? How'd that happen?
Well, I have a very long corporate career, and it was all in B2B, so I understand that space. I spent 14 years of my career in the semiconductor industry. I was in a very particular part called microcontrollers. So if you have a security system in your home, or maybe an irrigation system, or a thermostat in your home, or drive a vehicle, odds are you have a microcontroller somewhere in your phone, right? These are what are the little brains inside your products.
I love listening when somebody talks about, especially if it's an industrial product or B2B, and because they talk about, and they're excited. And, it's not about a toothpaste or a liquor or a car, but they're talking about, it could be a fire truck. It's something they're so excited about because there's passion in every product. So let's go right into your expertise. There's a lot of competition out there today, and it's not just local, it's worldwide. How does the customer experience play a role?
Today, the world is pretty much a level playing field. And to your point, most people do compete not just inside their own little world, but in a much larger world. I mean, just go into Google and hit search, and right, and you're competing with everything else that comes up in the search. That's the world you're competing in, and they're trying to find a solution to a problem or a solution to an aspiration. They don't even know sometimes what they're looking for. If you don't understand what they're looking for, they're going to just pass you by, because that's the first starting place for so many potential customers. And with technology and AI making everything be pretty much a level playing field, one of the few places we can differentiate is in the customer experience.
So Laura, tough question, but it'll illuminate where your focus is. How do I know if I'm doing a good job regarding my customer experience? If I'm a company out there and I'm thinking, well, I think we're doing a good job, how do I know?
Okay, well, there's some ways to know by asking, obviously, through customer research. You can know by if you have a customer advisory board. In the B2B world, it's not uncommon to have a customer advisory board. You can know by whether or not you get good reviews, of course. Referrals are another indicator of whether you know. Repeat business is another way that you know. You can do and measure things like customer effort. There is a whole way to score how hard or easy are you to do business with. And the harder you are to do business with, the less of a good customer experience you are having. Many, many years ago, a book was written that when I was back to my corporate career, came out when I was in the corporate world, that we all read. We had a book club in our group, and one of the books was called The Moments of Truth, which was really about your interactions with the customer and that every interaction mattered and made a difference. And that is really the impetus and background of my whole focus. I have so many stories, personal stories and business stories of where people drop the ball in moments of truth. They think if they just solve the problem on the phone when someone calls in, then all's good and well. But that's only one part of the customer experience. That customer experience goes all the way from the moment they make contact with you, whether that's through your website or at a trade show, in the case for many of our customers, or some other event, on your LinkedIn or in an email. These are all different ways, making contact all the way to the time they become, hopefully, an advocate for your company. Every one of those touch points matters.
You talked about how difficult it is or bad customer experiences. I'm a former washed up musician. So one day, this is a long time ago, but I was doing pretty good in business. I had gotten done working out. I was in my workout clothes on a weekend. I went to an electronics store in my city and I thought, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to buy the very best speakers for my audio system at home. So I thought, you know what? I'm not going to try to save money. I'm going to get the very best. So I went into the store and I'm looking around at the most expensive speakers and I'm really getting excited. The salesperson came up and I guess he looked at the way I was dressed and he said, "Hey, you really like music?" And I said, "Yeah, I really do. I love it." He goes, "Well, follow me." I said, "Okay, great." He said, "I think I can find some speakers that you can afford." And I thought, oh. And he took me to these really terrible, $5 speakers. They sound like tin cans. It was horrible. And I said, "Okay, thanks a lot." And I left. But we do that a lot in our business lives because we either are assuming that the customer wants something or doesn't want to spend for something, and we're missing signs. And can you go into a little depth as to how we can better take care of our customers, better understand them, Laura, other than either saying, yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, sir, we can do that, yes, ma'am, we can do that? How can we do a better job? What are the secrets? What are the things that you see out there?
I think your story is a great example because that where that person missed the mark, they didn't ask any questions. A company interested in delivering a customer experience asks questions. So in that experience, one of the important moments is creating a conversation and asking good questions. That's how you begin to get to also back to our whole point here, differentiation. Asking a question, what is it about the experience you're having with us that you value? What about the experience with us is causing you grief? If we could fix one thing in the experience that would make you love us, what could we do? These are interesting questions. People are willing to pay for value. So what is it that is valuable to you? What is it that I do for you that is valuable to you? These are the kinds of questions that you can be asking your customer. And what could I do to create more value for you? Tell me what that be. Then you have to go back to your company and say, here's a list of things that our customers say would create more value. Which of these things would help us create more business value too, right? Because we're in business.
Right.
We have to make a living. We have to pay our bills and our people. And so we can't just give it away. We can't cater to every customer's whim. That is not what customer centricity is. It is about asking really good questions and then making good decisions based on those answers. For many people we work with, they don't even know what questions to ask. As a piece of advice, and then we'll come back to this conversation, just giving out a piece of practical advice here is, what are the next 3 to 5 decisions you need to make for your company to be successful? What is it you need to know to make those decisions about your customers? Which of those things that you need to know do you think you already know that you need to validate? And which of those things you don't know the answer to? How can you get the answer? That's sort of a general way that we help our customers begin to think through how they can prioritize.
This is a question that my company uses, Laura, and it's kind of positioned in a negative way, but it's purely positive. And that is, we interview our clients' customers, and we ask, and also their employees, and we ask, what is the one thing you do not want this company to change? What should they never change?
Yeah.
Because you find out, oh, they should never change that they do blank and blank, or they never, ever should change this. And one reason this is such important information is many of us, and I am one, we're willing to change stuff to get better. I'm willing to change. Well, sometimes we can change something that is actually really good, that actually might be the only reason why a customer works with us. We have to guard those things.
One of the things we encourage our customers to do, and one of the things we did in the corporate world, is taking a look at our customers. Who are they? And then, of course, you want to have as much information as you can about your customers. In some way or another, begin to understand who they are and create personas around them. How can you classify or categorize those customers? Like, who are your tier 1 customers, your tier 2, your tier 3? Do you have some tier 3 that might become tier 1, or tier 2 that might become tier 1? Or do you have some tier 1s that are slipping and sliding? Right? Get some understanding around your data. I'm a data scientist. My background is in data. Our company is rooted in deriving insights from data, using analytics to get the answers to these kinds of questions. And then, what kind of customer-centric strategy do you have for each of those tiers? So how often are you having conversations with your tier 1 customers, and who's having them? So we have helped our customers set up programs where it says, okay, staff are going to talk to these set of customers minimum of once a month, by phone, by Zoom, whatnot. And they're going to see those customers a minimum of once a quarter, for example, right? And then these customers, staff might be responsible for. And then for these customers, and so forth, right? Have conversations with your customers so you can ask them questions, the kinds of questions that Barry bringing up or I'm bringing up. Then just over lunch, like, what's one thing you really like about what we're doing that you would never want us to change? This is a great lunch question.
When we return for the second half of Difference Talks, Laura, I'd like to dig into a little more of the analytics, and I'd like to learn a few of the biggest lessons that you've seen over the hundreds of clients that you and the team have worked with. So when we come back, we're going to learn more from Laura Patterson. Thank you for listening and watching Difference Talk.
Difference Talks is a LaBeouf production. Our focus is differentiation, and we believe it's more important than ever to differentiate your brand and experience. Contact us at labeouf.com for a conversation. We'd love to connect with you.
Welcome back to Difference Talks. We are with Laura Patterson. We're talking about customer experience. Laura, share some of the biggest mistakes we can make in dealing with our customers.
Okay. And I'm going to make them kind of simple, things that any company can think about and make sure they don't do. So one of the biggest mistakes is not keeping promises. That's really important. You make a promise, you need to figure out a way to keep it. And especially to a customer. So figure that out. What do you need to do to keep your promises? And if you're going to not make a commitment, don't wait till the last minute to tell them so. So that's kind of important. As soon as you know that you're going to have a problem, tell the customer, Be collaborative. What can we do? What might be a way to have this fix? Because trust is really, really important, especially in B2B. Really important. Another common mistake is when you screw up, fess up, own it. We all make mistakes. No one is perfect, and come with a solution. Here's what we screwed up. Here's why. Here's what we're doing to fix it. So those are two like really basic mistakes. Make sure your employees are trained. Don't assume your employees are going to know what to do. You need to help them understand what to do in whatever the situation might be. Saying, I don't know, I'll get back to you can work, but it's better if you can start collecting back to data. What are some of the most common things that are happening out there? What are our processes and procedures to address those very common problems? The sort of the 80-20 rule, 20% causes 80% of the problems. So what is that group that we need to address? And how do we make sure our employees know what to do and are empowered to do it? An example with one of our customers, we have what we call the red phone customers. And any customer that called from this list was flagged in their CRM system. So whenever someone from that list called, whatever you needed to do, you did, right? Whatever you needed to do, because they were on the red phone list. Those are some simple things. Don't make assumptions. It's amazing how many people just assume when someone calls in that they're just kicking a tire, and they might actually be the CEO of your next big customer. So treating people with respect is really important. And you'd be surprised. People have bad days, but you can't bring your bad day to work.
One thing you said that harkened back to me, there was a survey that IBM conducted decades ago, but it still is very, very applicable today. And they broke down customers into 3 categories. So they had thousands and thousands of data points, thousands of customers. And you either had a satisfied customer, a dissatisfied customer, or a dissatisfied customer made satisfied. Okay, so 3 different customer types. Your satisfied customer, this changed my life, by the way, when I learned this. Your satisfied customer is 84% likely to repeat. Okay, that's I guess good. Your dissatisfied customer was 49% likely to repeat. And I thought that sounds high, but they explained to me that, well, the concept is, hey, you guys stink, but the guys down the street stink even more. So we're going to stay with you. So 49% chance. Where it was eye-opening, and this has to do with just owning up to your mistake, the dissatisfied customer who was then made satisfied was 92% likely to repeat, meaning they were more loyal than the customer never had a problem. And bottom line was, it's because they got to know you. They got to see that you took ownership and that you're a human being and you cared. So it's not about being perfect. It's the opposite. It's about living up to it. I want to go to the concept of analytics, maybe also where AI enters into this equation. We are in the world of AI. AI's this, AI's that, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking analytics. How do analytics and technologies like AI play a role, good and or bad, in customer centricity?
Analytics is when you apply some kind of analysis to some kind of data. In the world of customer centricity, that would be predominantly customer data. And customer data exists everywhere. And that analytics, you would then use that to identify patterns in your data that would then be indicative of something that would help you make a decision. Analytics are only useful if you're going to get insights from your data that you're going to actually act on. Otherwise, it's just an exercise, just a workout. So there are all different kinds of analytics, some more sophisticated than others. If you're not sophisticated, it's okay. Sometimes the least sophisticated still gives you very rich information. The biggest challenge people have today is not lack of data. The biggest challenge people have today is getting insights out of their data. Now, you can get that insights by taking a bunch of data and giving it to a tool, an analytical tool, which might be an AI-based tool, and asking it to analyze your data and tell you what it says. That is one way to use those tools. And it can make things go a lot faster and a lot easier. Here's the biggest thing you need to keep in mind if you go that route. And there's perfectly nothing wrong to do that route. If you don't understand what the tool did and how it did it, you may not really understand what you got is your answer. So you have to be able to use the data in a way that you understand what the tool did. So moving aside from tools, here's what we would recommend. Going back to that question I had said earlier, what is it you need to know? And what is the question you need answered? Know what your question is so you know what data you need, and then you can determine what kind of analytics to apply. So descriptive analytics help you take a look at what happened. So you want to know what is happening in your customer base. What kind of churn rate are you having right now? Which of your customers are vulnerable? Which of your customers you have the highest share of wallet with? That will give you backward looking information. Or you can try and over time with data to get in front of that and get predictive, like which of these customers are likely to buy my next product? Those kinds of questions. So that's what you want to be able to do with your analytics. Have a question, know what you need in order to answer that question, and get the data to answer that question.
I believe that if you're going to ask these questions of your customers, you better act on them, because if you don't act on them, it's worse than doing nothing, because they're giving you input. And there's nothing worse than saying, well, I told them I had an issue with ... I never heard a thing. I guess they don't care. Well, it may not be that reason, but that's what happens. Sometimes I'll talk to customers and they'll say, oh, we want to do surveys on this and that. And we say, okay, if you are committed to acting on those things, because that's not going to be easy. That might be getting a hold of a number of these customers and talking about sensitive issues. Great. But if you're not, just don't go down that path, because you're going to raise expectations. Laura, is there a simple way? Because there are surveys, there are scores out there that you can do. Are there simple ways to know whether or not your customer is happy?
You can ask, clearly. That's a simple way to know. One of the things in the B2B world, a simple way to know is, will you give me a quote? Will you do a case study? Will you do a video? If they're not happy, and they say no, and you can then say, okay, well, is there a reason? It could be we have a policy.
Right.
We're not allowed to do that. Our PR organization won't let us do that. That could be a reason. And then you could say, okay, I understand. I get that. Would you be willing to, if I get a customer that is interested in talking to someone, would you be willing to be, can I have them contact you? That might be another way, right? These are simple ways without doing lots and lots of research to get a sense of whether or not someone is predisposed to being happy or unhappy. Because very few unhappy people are ever going to say yes to being in a video or being a podcast guest for you, right, or a case study, or giving you a quote, or doing a review, or any number of things. There are all kinds of behavioral things. That's my message here, is behavior. You're looking to understand behavior. People can say all kinds of things all day long, but the rubber meets the road when it comes to behavior. Experience is about behavior, your behavior, their behavior, the interaction between the two, and building a long-term relationship, and one that is based on trust both ways, so that you can have legitimate conversations. Because in the B2B world, oftentimes your product development efforts are based on customer feedback. So you have to be able to ask a customer, we're thinking about X, Y, and Z as part of the future road mapping of this product. When you think about the product, what are the things you're going to be needing in that product to be able to do, or this solution to be able to do, or this service to be able to do, in order for your product to be successful in its next iteration, right? Because the whole point in a B2B relationship is helping your customers be successful. In B2C, you want them to enjoy the chocolate bar. Product development is very investment heavy typically. So you want to make sure you're going to have products that customers want. And so you want long-term relationships that are based on trust and are collaborative in nature.
An interesting story that supports the idea of talking to your customers about your product development and what they need. We work with a phenomenal company that is a stainless steel trailer manufacturer. And we were talking with their customers. And one customer said to us, boy, I'll tell you, I love their such and such product. I designed it. I'm the person who told them to put the ladder over here. And we went, oh, okay, great. Next person we talked to said, oh, I love this certain product. I told them to put the ladder over here and they took my design. Another person talked to us and said, yeah, I buy their product all the time. Where they put the ladder is brilliant. It was actually my idea. And we heard this over and over and over again. And what was really great, and this is a beautiful thing for our audience to understand, is that company asked for input. They embraced it. They obviously followed up and let the customer know, hey, by the way, that idea about putting the ladder over there, we did it. But it also built such loyalty because after all, if I'm one of those customers, I'm not buying their trailer. I'm buying my trailer. I designed this thing.
Right.
That's my baby. A few things before we go. Laura, you touched on this, but the T word, trust. Talk about how that works. Everybody listening is involved with customers, is a customer, has customers. Where does trust play a role?
Oh, if there is no trust, there's no future. It's a basic component of your relationship with your customers. They need to know and trust you, and you need to know and trust them too. In the B2B world, it is a two-way relationship, especially when you have complex consultative sales, when you're designing products that might be a year to 5 years out. And you're having a conversation with a customer and you say to them, tell me what you're going to need in this product 5 years from now, because I need to start designing the product that you need 5 years from now. That is trust, right? And you're counting on them to buy that product that you're about to spend millions of dollars in development making. And they're counting on you having that product when they're ready to go to market. It's all trust. And the moment that goes away, the relationship is over. People are just going to move on, no matter what. So trust, it's table stakes. It's not a nice to do. It is table stakes. If you don't have that, you cannot play.
Laura, is the customer always right? Because that's a saying we've heard. The customer is always right. What's your response to that?
Customer centricity is not about your customers being right. Nor is it about catering, as I said earlier, to every customer's whim. Customer centricity is about how you run your company. So when you think about ways you could run your company kind of quickly, if you're a product-centric company, you're running your company based on, I make cool stuff. You should buy things from me because my stuff is really cool. I'm going to have the coolest stuff out there, and if being cool matters to you, you want to be staying in my lane because I'm going to be delivering cool stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being product-centric. In fact, it's not uncommon. If you want to know what a product-centric company is, just look and see how much they spend in R&D. Right. Because product-centric companies spend a lot in R&D. If you want to be a sales-centric company, it's all about selling. The salespeople are running the show. And you know a sales-centric company, when sales-centric people make promises for products that your company doesn't even make. or delivering a product that your company has yet to get out the door, right? So these are sales-centric companies. Customer-centric companies are thinking about, how do we run our company so that we create customer experiences for our customers that create value for them and value for us. It's still about value, but the value is in building that relationship. And that means we know who they are, we know what they want. And it's starting with those questions about what will help our customers be successful. And customer-centric companies if they have to make a choice between a business value and a customer value for whatever reason, and I'm going to give you an example in a moment, they will put their thumb on the scale of customer value. So quick story. Years ago, most members of your community know that Austin had a terrible ice storm, and we knew it was coming. It was called the Snowmageddon, a bunch of different names. But anyways, one of those Geddon things. And my husband always says on my tombstone, he's going to put, if it weren't for the last minute. So, of course, we are at the last minute going to the HEB to get batteries and candles and matches and water, all the things that people should have gotten days before, knowing that this weather event was occurring. So we're in the HEB and we're filling up our cart. We weren't the only ones there. Lots of other people were the last minute too, when the lights go out. The lights go out and everybody's quiet. And I always say this when I'm talking. Why is it when the lights go out, we all start to whisper? So you hear all these whisperings, right? We're whispering. I'm saying to my husband, now what? Right? And then the generator comes on. You know, the generator's on. We have the little red light and the glow and all that. And then we hear this voice coming from the front of the store talking, just talking. Hello, I am the store manager. And as you can see, we have lost power, which means I do not have a PA system, which means we do not have lighting. And it also means that we do not have the ability to take credit cards or cash or anything, all of that. So please bring your carts to the front of the store. We're all bringing our carts to the front of the store. They all have stuff in them. And he says, our automatic doors don't work. So we're going to open these doors and you will take your stuff in your cart out the door to your cars, where we hope you will safely make it home. And we look forward to seeing you when the storm is over. That was a customer-centric decision. He could have told all of us to come to the store, leave your carts where they are, right? So you have thousands of dollars walking out the door. I'm telling this story. You know, I love my HEB. We went back. Of course, we went back to the store.
Right.
It was just goodwill, good community citizenship. That is an example, right? Think about how would your employees have handled a situation like that? Maybe not that exact situation, but did they feel empowered to do that? That is a customer-centric company. They didn't cater to a whim. They dealt with a problem and they had a way to solve it. They solved that problem and they did the right thing.
And the store manager, not the CEO, the store manager made the decision on the spot, in the moment, whether or not the CEO thanked her or him or not later, or even knew about it. It doesn't matter. Decision made in the best interest of the customer. Laura, thank you so much today. We have learned a lot. We have learned about trust. We have learned about analytics. We have learned about how important it is to keep our promises, how important it is to own up to mistakes and just say, hey, we blew it and we're going to make sure we solve this. So, Laura, thank you so much. Everybody remember, Laura Patterson. We'll have information on how to connect with her. And her book, Fast Track Your Business, which is all about delivering customer experiences that will help your company grow and the relationships with your customers grow. Until next time, this has been Difference Talks. Thank you. And thank you, Laura Patterson.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Difference Talks. All of us at LeBub are proud to celebrate great people with inspiring messages. Difference Talks was created, produced, engineered, and performed by the LeBub team. Even the music is original. Contact us at lebub.com to learn how to differentiate your brand and give your team a sense of significance and meaning.